What's at stake?
Everything's at stake, but honestly, democracy at stake, freedom at stake. I mean, there's so much things at stake right now. This is the most important time. I mean, be eligible to vote. That's a good thing. Be eligible to vote and know you can vote. That's the best thing you have. And as long as you exercise that, hopefully things will work out this way.
If Trump does make it back into office, I don't know what you're voting, but what do you think America's going to look like?
Scary. It looked scary the first time. So, I mean, I don't see any difference. I think it's going to be worse, actually. Well, the back. I was scared the first time of certain things. This time, I think knowing that he's on a revenge tour, I think it's going to be bad. I think it's going to be bad. The first time, yeah, it was some things that was bad, but I think this time, if he was to go in again, I think it's going to be worse.
Are you one more thing before I let you go? Are you at all surprised that he is in the position to be president again?
No.
You're not surprised.
No.
Why not?
Because people like, for some reason, his personality gets appealed to people. And whether he tells the truth or tells a lie, people doesn't matter. Lies don't matter no more. I guess right now, lies don't matter to nobody. Nobody, they make a lie now doesn't matter no more.
I don't know. I think both sides have positives. Both sides have negatives. For me, me and my family were voting Trump. That's who. I agree mostly with him.
Mhm.
Not saying everything he does is perfect, but
Does the trials bother you at all as a voter for Trump?
I honestly don't know a ton about him,
Okay.
so I'm probably the wrong guy to ask about it. I know stuff is going on, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I
What
just
do you like about him? Tell me about what you like.
Yeah.
the thing that I like about him is, I mean, I believe in God. I think he's a believer in God. He believes that he'll rely on God to help him. He's a businessman. When he was in office, he kind of ran the country like a businessman. And I mean, I felt like everything was pretty good. And not saying things aren't good now, but I mean, it's a lot more expensive and everything. But I guess that's what I liked. He kind of ran it from more of like a business aspect, I guess you could say, more than.
But at
A
the same
different
time,
side.
now we're not taking sides. But at the same time, when you say running like a businessman, this is an individual, and I'm not in any way trying to convince you either one way or the other, who has 10 bankruptcies, right? Who business was found to have committed massive business fraud by a judge, ordered to pay almost $500 million. Does that concern you at all?
See, and that's honestly the first time I ever even heard that.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, that is concerning.
That's
So,
the one thing we found, and we have a whole lot more of that coming your way in the days, weeks, and the months to come. But that's one thing we continually find when those who say, despite whether or not they're white or black, in this case, it's a young white guy from Utah who said, I didn't know that he committed massive business fraud. I didn't know that he I don't know what's going on with all of these trials. I don't know really much about it. It seems to me that people would want to educate themselves, because no matter who you talk to, they all say the same thing about the election being the most consequential, the most important. And if it's that important, why aren't you educating yourself? Why are you blindly following someone, whether it be Biden or Trump? Shouldn't you educate yourself? Because doesn't that supposed to be a very important decision to make? And oftentimes we found that supporters of the former president can't articulate why they support him, or either they can't or they won't articulate why they support him. In this case, this young man simply could not articulate it, only that his family are Trump supporters. He says he's a religious guy. He believes Trump is a guy who relies on God. But what evidence demonstrates that? Or with either candidate, what evidence demonstrates that? But you don't hear, and I don't want to really lump the president in it, because you don't really hear his supporters say that. You hear that a lot from Trump. But what evidence do they produce? Or can you produce to show that Trump is this God-fearing man. This is a guy who's on trial right now. You had a adult film actress, David Youngblood, testify about the extramarital affair that they had. And not to say that people who believe in God, don't sometimes make these mistakes, don't sometimes commit these type of acts. But this is a guy who says that he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and there'd be no consequences. This is a guy who says that he can grab women, any woman, by their private parts. So I'm not seeing any connection to, in this case, God or any type of religion. I mean, I don't know that there's a religion that supports a preacher or a pastor or a minister or whomever that supports someone being essentially describing sexual assault and who has been found to be responsible for sexual assault. Power 96 says, now that is great on the ground reporting. By the way, inflation started under Trump. His tariff war with China created this mess. It takes 2 years for inflation to kick in. And that's another thing too, the lack of education in something like that. You would think, Power 96, that everyone knows that. And I submit that many people do know that. But it's just another way of grasping for something to try and hold up their particular candidate, the person that they support. Yes, Mike V. Trump held the Bible upside down and said his favorite verse in the Bible is private. And what's private about the Bible? But yes, so we intend to do a lot more of that. We were roundabout in hot Washington, D.C., Greer and I suffering for the cause, talking to folks, Black folks, white folks, men, women. One thing I will say this, and we talked to a college student, a female, and sometimes, and it's surprising at times how they don't seem to, some of them don't seem to articulate well their positions or lack of positions. If you don't have a position, that's great. But folks, multiple words does not make, using multiple words does not make you sound intelligent. I will just leave it at that. I probably shouldn't blast somebody like that, but I don't feel like I'm blasting this individual. I just feel like, wow, sometimes become a politician yourself and say no comment. So there you go. Despite a ceasefire deal, Israel is continuing its assault in Gaza, and President Biden again went on national television and said that they are withholding arms from Israel because they do not support this assault in Rafah. So it's getting more and more interesting. How about, but wait a minute, as they say, wait a minute. Greer, how about the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene, we didn't really talk about this. I haven't been reporting on this lately. Her latest push to try and get rid of House Speaker Mike Johnson. I mean, I think we mentioned that the Democrats, we mentioned last week at some point as in passing that Hakeem Jeffries and Democrats said they will not support an ouster of Mike Johnson at this point. And many Republicans don't support it. But yesterday was a very profound moment on the House floor because Marjorie Taylor Greene, shameless as she remains, stood up and announced that she wanted to oust the speaker and that she was calling for a vote. And both sides of the aisle, it was a bipartisan booing that took place. And it was like cheers. It was music to many people's ears. Because when you recognize someone, you don't cheer for a downfall of someone unless they are a Marjorie Taylor Greene type. But to see Republicans and Democrats together collectively boo like they were at a sporting event and the opposing team had committed some sort of foul that wasn't called, the booing was, it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Marjorie Taylor Greene got her head handed to her yesterday on the House floor from both sides, and then she goes on to complain that these Republicans, these non-MAGA Republicans, these non-Kool-Aid drinkers are siding with Democrats. And there it is, right there.
The Speaker's gavel to the Democrats, which would only happen if Republicans actually vote for Hakeem Jeffries. Johnson regularly chooses to ally himself with Democrats. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the office of the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Gentlemen will suspend. The House will be in order.
She when she got up to speak about this, it was resounding. I wish we had that particular clip, but it was resounding. The boos were resounding. Mike V says a party in disarray, decapitating their own Speaker of the House, and folks want to vote on that side in November. Again, it's the information that folks are just not taking in. We also, it's also interesting because there was a report, and Greer was talking about this yesterday too. Folks are just not consuming news. They are many folks, I should say, are not consuming news. And even the young lady that I spoke of, she listed several different outlets in which she says she goes to Fox, to MSNBC, blah blah blah. It's it's interesting. The only reason to do that nowadays is to experiment and to do research, I guess, on like how not to cover not just politics, but anything. And I think all of those networks have now given us a crash course in how not to cover anything and how not to be professional journalists. That's just my take. But meantime, I should say, meanwhile, Democrats are urging President Biden to solidify the status of immigrants, particularly the DACA recipients, to protect them if Trump happens to win the presidency in November. A bunch of Democrats from the Hispanic caucus, from the Black caucus, and various others came together, wrote a letter saying that we have to protect them, and because they know what the fate that awaits them if Trump does get back into office. And speaking of Donald Trump, we're going to talk about that this morning, the whole immigration situation. But speaking of Donald Trump, a Georgia appeals court has granted the former president's team's request to consider an appeal of a judge's decision to allow Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis to remain on his case. An appeals court will hear it. It only, at the very least, it means, once again, as we were talking about yesterday, that cases against Trump, with the exception of the one that's currently going on, will not happen in 2024, if ever. If he wins the presidency, they will not happen. The MAGA judge down in Florida saw to that in her decision on the documents case. And we had a guy tell us yesterday that that's the case, that he's really, really interested in the documents case. But we're going to talk about that decision also this morning. And the U.S. Capitol has swapped the statue of obscure Arkansas figures for that of the mentor to the Little Rock Nine, civil rights leader Daisy Bates. They also are going to put in, as a side note, a statue of Johnny Cash, the musician, which is interesting that Johnny Cash is going up as well. We'll bring you a little bit more details in a moment. Flavor Flav is doing Flavor Flav things. Mr. Everywhere Man says that he will fund the U.S. Women's Olympic water polo team. This came after one of the members posted on X or Twitter about the challenges of raising the money. And Flav said, "This is a Flavor Flav promise. I got you." We'll talk about public enemy number one, Flavor Flav in the house, making it happen for the women's water polo team, making sure that they are well represented and able to go to Paris and do their thing. They've won the gold, two times in the last 3 years. So they're shooting for it again, and good for Flavor Flav. We'll again talk more about that. But right now, the ceasefire situation, officials from Israel said that major gaps remain with Hamas over the latest proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza. Delegations from both sides arrived in Egypt to resume those talks. That Hamas said that it had accepted the terms of the ceasefire proposed by Arab mediators. But U.S. officials said it had minor wording changes from a proposal that Israel and the United States had recently presented to the group. And see, that seems to where the problem seems to lie, right? Egypt and Egypt was at the forefront of negotiating the deal and came up with the deal. Now it's about who wants to get the credit. Who wants to get the credit? Meanwhile, people are still dying, and they're worried about who wants to get the credit. And again, Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, said that his war cabinet unanimously believed that the proposal Hamas had agreed to was very far from Israel's core demands. Netanyahu has made it clear that he wants to continue to assault he wants to continue this ground assault, and he wants to wipe out those he perceives as his enemy, including Palestine. So it continues to go on as students continue to protest. Yesterday, the authorities got rid of an encampment at George Washington University here in the district. They arrested 30 protesters and cleared an encampment, I should say. And so these protests continue, and we got a lot of thoughts and opinions on the effect that the protests will have on the 2024 election. Power 96 says, if no one is charged with war crimes after this Hamas versus Benjamin Netanyahu war, nobody would ever be accused of a war crime. But the students here are continually protest. And I'm just noticing Power 96's question. What would those same Republicans save Hakeem Jeffries or vote for anything that he supports? Of course not. The situation with the speaker, just to be clear, the Democrats believe that here is one MAGA guy in Mike Johnson, and it's proved to be true so far, that they are able to work with, that they're able to get certain things done, and we're so close to an election. They just simply don't want to stomach a house in chaos at this point. So they decided we're not going to support a motion to remove the speaker. They simply want to get business, as much business done as possible, which is why Marjorie Taylor Greene is upset. And the thing about it is Donald Trump, who she believes is all on board with her actions, and he has continually shown that he's not really. I mean, yes, he has called some of the shots with the Republicans in the House. But on this particular issue, it seems that, and based on all reports and everything coming out of the Trump camp, he could care less right now about the Speaker of the House in that situation. Marjorie Taylor Greene has taken it upon herself. And it seems that we see that with fandom, whether it's in entertainment, music, or sports. Fans tend to try and act in a manner they think that they're the person that they idolize is going to be pleased with, and then they overdo it. And this is the situation Marjorie Taylor Greene found herself in, and this is why she got booed in the House. So immigration advocates and Democratic lawmakers are urging the president to prioritize long-term undocumented immigrants as his administration weighs executive actions to curb record crossings along the southern border. The letter signed by more than 80 lawmakers, as we said at the top, including members of the Congressional Hispanic and Progressive Caucuses, the Black Caucus. Democrats have asked Biden to take all available actions to streamline pathways to lawful status for undocumented immigrants ahead of the November elections. In the letter, they say, quote, deporting all such individuals as former President Donald Trump has threatened to do if reelected would devastate the American economy and destroy American families. The letter offers concrete steps they say the White House could take, including streamlining the process by which DACA recipients or immigrants brought to the country illegally as children can seek to change to a non-immigrant status. They've also asked the president to unify families by allowing undocumented migrants married to U.S. citizens to seek parole on a case-by-case basis and reduce processing times for green card cases so that those migrants could be eligible to work. And so they want this done now, and the president is weighing some action, but they want it done now. And it's interesting because there's an urgency. And this is the problem sometimes when you're running up against the clock and you're not acting with urgency. So they want the president to act with urgency. They're saying, who knows what's going to happen in November? We talked to somebody from Norway yesterday in front of the White House who said that they can't believe that Trump is even a candidate based on everything he's done and is doing. And so here, Democrats are saying, who knows what could happen in November? So let's protect immigrants as much as possible. So as we mentioned earlier, Georgia State's Court of Appeals said yesterday that it's going to consider an appeal by Trump's team challenging the decision not to disqualify Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis as the district attorney overseeing the 2020 election interference charges against him. The order said that Trump can file a notice of appeal within the next 10 days. And a lawyer for Trump, Steve Sadow, said that the former president looks forward to arguing before the appeals court that the case should be dismissed and Willis should be disqualified for her misconduct in this, quote, unjustified, unwarranted political persecution. The DA's office did not comment. Fani Willis had no comment, only to respond to other queries about the Georgia State Senate and their investigation into her and her previous relationship in the district attorney's office. But again, they are going to prolong this, and this is exactly what the former president wanted. He wanted chaos, and he wanted, more importantly, he wanted this to be postponed, and that's what's happening here. So the case that's going on now, the disgusting case in New York, the one that had everybody drinking Pepto-Bismol yesterday. That's it. That is it. And this is a case that he's the New York case, 34 charges. Despite the 34 charges, though, this is not necessarily a case that could land the former president that's ultimately likely to land him in prison, even if convicted on all accounts. They have that first-time offender law in New York, which, of course, we wouldn't oppose a first-time offender law being on the books. so many wouldn't, I should say. But the jeopardy here is not necessarily jail. I mean, the judge could sentence him to jail because it does carry a conviction does carry a prison term, not a mandatory prison term, though. And 96, Trump literally got spanked by and I'm going to say it the way David said we should say it. He got spanked by an adult film star. What a time to be alive, Power 96 says. Yeah, all the gory, disgusting details. Again, most disgusting, though, is comparing this adult film actress to his daughter. I just can't wrap my head around who would do such thing. And again, as we said yesterday, we heard the former president in the past sort of swoon over his daughter in a way that made even those close to him cringe. So to sit there with Stormy Daniels, allegedly, I mean, this is her testimony, and to talk about how hot his daughter is, and to say that he and his wife sleep in separate rooms, separate beds. And what message was he actually sending Stormy Daniels, who proceeded to talk about the 2-hour-long conversation and the 2-second long romp in the bed? So, 2 seconds of that and an hour and 98 minutes, an hour and 99 minutes and 58 seconds of conversation. Shouldn't it be the other way around? Let's move on. The late U.S. civil rights leader and journalist Daisy Bates, who was instrumental in desegregating Arkansas public schools in the 1950s, was honored yesterday when a statue of her was unveiled at the U.S. Capitol. The bronze statue depicts Bates, who died in 1999 at the age of 84, with a newspaper in one hand and a notebook and pen in the other. What a momentous occasion. They removed in her place, they removed a couple of obscure statues to put her and the late singer Johnny Cash there. Mike Johnson, speaking of Mike Johnson, he supported this, actually, Daisy Bates being up there. We know Daisy Bates and her husband published an Arkansas newspaper dedicated to the civil rights movement. She also served as the president of the Arkansas chapter of the NAACP. The U.S. Capitol allows each of the 50 states to choose 2 statues from the National Statuary Hall, I should say, and surrounding prominent hallways. Arkansas state legislature in 2019 decided to replace both of its entries. They were Uriah Rose, a mid-1800s Little Rock attorney who was a Confederate sympathizer, and also the founder of the American Bar Association. James Clark was the other, who was a late 1800s governor who later became a U.S. senator and was a defender of white supremacy. So it was time, right? It was long since time. So her statue, Daisy Bates' statue, is going to join statues like Samuel Adams of Massachusetts, aviator Amelia Earhart, inventor Thomas Edison, and others at the Capitol, I should say. Mike B trying to get me in trouble, but I'm gonna take the bait and repeat what he said. He writes, 2-time indicted, 2-pump chump Trump. Say that fast. Wow, y'all be going in. And my man Flav, who I don't know if Flav watching this morning, but Flav, good job. Because even the most elite athletes qualifying for the Olympics is only one part of the battle. The next step is finding the money to compete and international sports events. We brought you the story last week of the guy, Howard University graduate, who works at a Walmart deli down in North Carolina, and he was working out and qualifying for the Olympics, and Walmart gave him $20,000 to help that cause. But the U.S. Olympic teams are largely privately funded, and sometimes that funding can come from an unexpected source, like Flav. After Maggie Steffens, the captain of the 2024 U.S. women's water polo team, tweeted about how it's challenging to raise the money needed. Flav said, "Hey, I got you." What she wrote was that some may not know this, but most Olympians need a second or third job to support chasing the dream, myself included. And most teams rely on sponsors for travel, accommodations, nutritional support, rent, and simply affording to live in this day and age. 30-year-old tweeted, and or actually she posted on Instagram. She says, especially female sports and female athletes. She says, we've had companies and amazing individuals support our sport alongside donors, but we always need more help. So in response, in his own way, in the only way that we could come to expect, Flav says, "Hey, yo," he says, "as a girl dad and supporters of all women's sports, and he says, he didn't say I'm going to, he says, personally sponsor you, my girl, whatever you need. And I'm a sponsor the whole team." He said he told her that his manager would be reaching out to her agent to figure out how he could help, and repeated his willingness to use his resources to provide whatever the team might need. He goes on to say, "That's a Flav promise." And as Daniela P., I was waiting for somebody to do this. "Yeah, boy." That's what she writes. Oh, wow. So as the U.S. women's water polo team gears up for this summer's Olympics, it's 3 golds that they've won recently. Most recently in 2020, they won the gold. But again, the cost is sometimes out of the reach of those who aspire. And they say tens of thousands of dollars are often needed just to train ahead of the Olympics. And then, of course, this is going all the way to Paris, France. The costs of the airline tickets, the hotels, it's going to be, particularly at this time of year, when they have such a major event, tickets seem to increase 2, 3, 4-fold or more. And so here, Flav steps in and says, "Hey, you got my backing. I'm going to take that financial burden off you and the entire team." So good for Flav. Flav's been everywhere, as we know. We featured him recently, the Everywhere Man. He's been everywhere, singing the national anthem at a basketball game. I mean, come on, Flav is doing it all. The 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris are set to begin on Friday, July the 26th. And that is the women's water polo team. So we will follow the Olympics this summer. So much going on this summer. We've got the Democratic National Convention, the Republican National Convention is in July. So a lot is happening this summer. The NNPA's summer conference is late June in Baltimore. So I got to come on by Baltimore. Come on by Baltimore. We are going to be at the Four Seasons. And we will be at, Greer is reminded, we will be at the DNC. Lauren Burke is going to the RNC. So heck, NNPA is going to be represented at both. She's going to be among the MAGA crowd. Lauren says, "You know what? There are reporters that go on the front lines of wars. This is just another war, and she's going to be on the front line of it. So you go, Lauren." Greer and I will be in Chicago in August for the Democratic National Convention. And of course, we will all be in Baltimore next month for the National Newspaper Publishers Association's summer conference. Speaking with a White House person yesterday, talking about logistics and with the hope, I guess, the ongoing discussions that we've been having with the White House about the president's attendance at the NNPA's conference in June. Look, I was going to say September. In June, the summer conference in June. So we were told that there is a chance that the president and the vice president may be in attendance. So we got to talk to him. Yeah, we definitely got to talk to the president. Lots going on. His speech is coming up. His graduation speech at Spelman. You got to watch, see what happens there next week with all these college protests. And we already know, and we've done that story too, how Spelman alum, and all of the big three there, Morehouse, actually not at Spelman, the speech is Morehouse. Spelman and Morehouse and Clark joined together, the alumni joined together to basically condemn the idea of the president giving the speech at this time. They don't want it to happen, but the White House is going forward with it. The Morehouse is going forward with it as well. And it's going to be a very interesting time. It might even be something that where the president might feel, you know what, let me go talk to the Black press of America. Let me go take the pulse of Black America through the Black press. This is what they used to do. This is what some still do, right? They take the pulse of Black America through the Black press. So Biden, come feel the pulse. Feel the pulse. see how we rolling President Biden and Vice President Harris. And I will say, now, as I was mentioning to a White House official yesterday in our discussion, the Vice President, since they've been in office, we've had some personal Zooms with the Vice President. We've had one-on-one interviews with the Vice President. She's availed herself to us. So they have done that. But the President of the United States needs to talk to the Black press. He sort of need, when he was running, and y'all have heard me tell that story, so I won't go through it in its entirety. But when he was running, he came and talked to the Black press and sat down and got comfortable and talked about his history among Black people, which some are even questioning. You know, some in mainstream media, I noticed, are questioning some of his stories. But these are stories that have been consistent. He's talked about it for decades, and he certainly did sit down and talk to us about it in 2020. So looking forward to the president sitting down with us sometime soon, and perhaps it'll take place at the NNPA's summer convention in Baltimore. You guys invited. Get your room at the Four Seasons and join us. In the meantime, Power 96 says I still hold the title. He arrived in Paris by accident, took the wrong train from Frankfurt, Germany, and they thought he was an NFL player. He said he lived it up for the weekend and signed autographs. Now, which NFL player? Because he actually can pass. I've seen his IG posts at times. He can pass for an NFL player. I wonder which one. I was thinking more just based on his profile picture, one of those wrestlers like the Undertaker or something. But anyway, he lived it up, signed autographs. I think it's interesting. Power 96. People have done that, you know. I hope you didn't break any laws, though. But anyway, I tell you what doesn't break laws is if you go to our YouTube page and you subscribe. And if you call your friends, your family, and tell them to subscribe as well. Breaks no laws. So do that and tell us what you think. Tomorrow we got a nice show for you planned. Join us then. We will see you tomorrow morning. Thanks for joining us.